I am 82 years old, and I need to tell you about the night I turned 40. Not because it was special, because it was the night I finally saw the truth. And by then, the truth had already done its damage. There was a cake on my dining table, store-bought, vanilla frosting, 4 candles and a 0. My wife had picked it up that afternoon between picking up my daughter from school and tidying a house that didn't need tidying, just so it would look like someone cared enough to celebrate. And someone did care. She cared. I just couldn't see it then. The party, if you could call it that, had ended 20 minutes earlier. I was sitting at the head of a dining table built for 12. Only 3 chairs had been used. My parents, my wife, my daughter. That was it. No friends, because I hadn't maintained any. No neighbors, because I didn't know their names. No colleagues, because I'd never once invited them into my real life. I kept those worlds separate. I thought that was discipline. Turns out, it was just loneliness with a strategy. The last car had pulled out of the driveway. I could hear the engine fading down the street, and then nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of a clock I'd never noticed before. And that cake, sitting there under the kitchen light. The candles had burned down to wax stubs, little melted stumps sinking into the frosting like tiny gravestones. The icing was collapsing in the warmth of the room, sliding slowly off the edges, pooling on the plate beneath. I remember thinking, that cake is the most honest thing in this room. It's not pretending it isn't falling apart. I want you to hear me when I say this. Time did not rob me. I wasn't a victim. I handed my years away voluntarily, and I got a receipt for every single one. I just never read the fine print. See, I grew up believing in a very simple gospel. Work now, enjoy later. Secure the future first, then live in it. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? It sounds responsible. That's what made it so dangerous. The most destructive lies aren't the ones that sound crazy. They're the ones that sound smart. In my 20s, I was hungry. I worked late every night. I can still smell that office coffee at 11 p.m., bitter and burnt, sitting in a styrofoam cup next to a keyboard I'd been hammering for 14 hours. The blue glow of spreadsheets reflected in my glasses. I'd look at those numbers and feel like I was building something important, something that would eventually let me breathe. My mother used to call me on Tuesday evenings, every Tuesday, like clockwork. And every Tuesday, I'd see her name flash on my phone, and I'd think, I'll call her back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll have more time. Tomorrow I won't be so buried. Tomorrow never came easy, though. Tomorrow was always just as full as today. In my 30s, the lie got louder because the rewards got bigger. Corner office, company car, bonuses that made my bank account look like a scoreboard. I was winning, or at least I thought I was. My daughter's school had a spring play every year. She was in every one of them. I made it to one. And even then, I spent half of it in the hallway answering emails on my phone. She asked me once, "Daddy, are you coming to see me be the butterfly?" She was 7. I told her I'd try. I didn't try. I had a client dinner. I told myself she wouldn't remember. But here I am, 82 years old, and I remember. So I guarantee you, she remembers too. My wife wanted to go to Portugal. She'd been talking about it since we were dating. She had a picture of the Algarve coast pinned to our refrigerator for 6 years. 6 years. Every spring I'd say, next summer. Let's plan for next summer. We never went. Eventually she stopped asking. She took the picture down one afternoon, and I didn't even notice it was gone for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That tells you everything about where my attention was. I wasn't cruel. I want you to understand that. I wasn't yelling or slamming doors or staying out drinking. I was worse than that. I was absent in the most polite, responsible, well-dressed way possible. I was providing. I was building a future. I was being strategic. And every single person I loved was starving right in front of me, while I counted calories I'd never feed them. Now let me tell you about that birthday. Let me slow down here, because this is where it all cracked open, and I need you to see it the way I saw it. Every detail, every silence. My parents arrived early. That was the first thing that shook me. My father was always precisely on time. Not early, not late. He took pride in that. But that evening they showed up 40 minutes before anyone else. And when I opened the door, I understood why. My father was walking slow. Not just slow, but careful. He gripped the door frame with his right hand as he stepped over the threshold, and his knuckles were white. His fingers looked thinner than I remembered. When did his hands get so thin? He looked up at me and smiled, and the smile was real, but his eyes were tired. Not sleepy, tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. My mother was behind him, her hand on his lower back, guiding him gently like she'd been doing it for months. Maybe years, I wouldn't know. I hadn't visited since Christmas, and even then I'd left early to prepare for a Monday meeting. They sat in the living room while my wife set the table. My father asked me about work because that was the only language I'd given him to speak to me in. I answered on autopilot. Revenue was up. The team was growing. Big quarter ahead. He nodded and said, "That's good, son. That's real good." And then he said something I'll carry to my grave. He said, "You know, your mother and I drove past the old Little League field on the way here. Remember when you hit that triple?" He laughed, a small, wheezy laugh, and I barely remembered. I barely remembered the most important thing he was holding on to. Dinner was quiet. My daughter, 15 years old by then, sat across from me with her phone under the table. I asked her about school. Fine. I asked about her friends. Good. I asked what she was working on. Stuff. 3 words. That's all I got. 3 words from the girl who used to climb into my lap and narrate her entire day in one breathless monologue. She used to tell me everything. Then I stopped listening, so she stopped talking. Fair trade, I suppose. Brutal, but fair. My wife brought out the cake. She lit the candles. They sang happy birthday. All 4 of them. My mother's voice was shaky but earnest. My father mouthed most of the words because his breath didn't carry like it used to. My daughter sang quietly, barely audible, looking at the table, and my wife smiled at me, but I noticed something I'd never seen before. The smile stopped below her eyes. Her mouth was celebrating, but the rest of her face was somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere she'd gone to protect herself from hoping I'd ever truly show up. I blew out the candles. They clapped. We ate cake. And the whole time I kept looking around the table, and it hit me like a freight train with no horn. Nobody at this table was with me. They were near me. They were performing closeness. But nobody was actually with me, because I had never actually been with them. You can't receive what you've never given. The room smelled like vanilla frosting and something faintly stale. Maybe it was the flowers on the counter that had been there too long. Maybe it was the air in a house where people coexist but don't connect. That staleness, it had a weight. It sat in my chest. After cake, my parents left first. My mother hugged me tight, tighter than usual, like she was trying to memorize the shape of me. My father shook my hand at the door, and his grip was soft, so soft. My daughter went upstairs without saying good night. My wife said she was tired, touched my shoulder as she passed, and went to bed. And just like that, the house was empty, full of furniture, full of things I'd bought, but empty of everything that mattered. I sat back down at that table, and I stared at that cake. The frosting had given up entirely by then. It had slid off the sides and pooled on the plate in a sad, sugary puddle. The candle stubs were bent over like broken fingers, waxy and misshapen, sinking into what was left of the surface. The little plastic 40 topper was tilting sideways, almost mocking me. "This is what 40 looks like," it said. "This is what you built." I picked up my phone. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. I started scrolling through my photos, hundreds of them. Conference stages, client dinners in cities I can't remember, airport lounges, hotel lobbies, handshakes with men whose names I've long forgotten. Photo after photo of a life that looked impressive and felt like absolutely nothing. Then I found it, a single photo. My daughter, 6 years old, holding my hand in what looked like a park. She was looking up at me, squinting against the sun, grinning. I was looking at the camera. And I couldn't remember that day. I could not remember it. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes, trying to feel something, trying to pull a memory from somewhere, anywhere. Nothing. That day was gone. Spent and unrecorded in any place that mattered. Saved on a phone, but deleted from my heart. The house made sounds around me, the settling of wood, the hum of pipes, the click of the heating system. When you're truly alone, a house doesn't comfort you. It interrogates you. Every creak is a question. What were you doing? Where were you? Why weren't you here? I looked at that cake one more time. The frosting still sliding, still collapsing, And I realized it wasn't mocking me at all. It was mirroring me. Both of us sitting there in a warm room, slowly falling apart, and nobody watching, nobody coming back to check. That was 40. And I blinked, and now I'm 82. Now I'm talking to you. You're watching this right now, and somewhere in the back of your mind you're thinking, I still have time. I hear you. I thought that too. I thought it at 25. I thought it at 30. I was still thinking it the night that cake melted in front of me at 40. Let me be the old man who grabs you by the collar and tells you the truth. You do not have time. You have right now, and even that is a maybe. Stop saying someday. Someday is a thief dressed as a planner. It steals your present and gives you nothing but a calendar full of regrets. You want to visit your parents? Go this weekend. Not next month, this weekend. You want to hear your kid laugh? Put your phone face down on the counter tonight and get on the floor and play with them. You want to tell someone you love them? Open your mouth and say it today, right now. Before the sun goes down on another day you'll never get back. Time is not money. That's the biggest lie ever sold. Money, you lose it, you make it back. You go earn more. Time? Time is a melting ice cube in your fist. You can't stop it. You can't refill it. You can't invest it and watch it grow. You can only hold it and feel it disappear, drop by drop. And the only choice you have is what you let it touch while it's still there. I'm 82. My father is gone. He died 6 years after that birthday. My mother followed him 2 years later. My daughter is a grown woman now. We talk, but there's a distance between us that I built with 20 years of absence. And some distances don't close all the way, no matter how hard you try. My wife stayed. God knows why. But there are rooms in her heart I locked myself out of, and I lost the key somewhere between quarterly reports and 5-year plans. I'll tell you what I did that night, after staring at that ruined cake for longer than any grown man should. I picked it up. I carried it to the trash can. I dropped it in. And then I picked up my phone. I dialed my father's number. It rang 4 times. He picked up, groggy, confused, because it was almost midnight. I said, "Hey, Dad, yeah, I know it's late. I just wanted to talk." There was a pause, and then he said, "I'm glad you called, son." That phone call lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes. And it is worth more to me than every deal I ever closed, every bonus I ever earned, and every late night I ever spent in that office. You still have someone to call. You still have a door to walk through, a hand to hold, a moment to be present for. For the love of God, do it now. That ice cube is melting.